My biggest thing, especially with solopreneurs and with the small business owners who are trying to wear all the hats and do everything themselves, is like, don't do things that you hate because you hate doing it. So you're going to find reasons to push it off to the back burner, and nothing is going to be effective if you're just sporadically throwing things at it.
Hey, Dana, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me.
So this is a content marketing podcast. You're a content marketing marketer. What would you say is your claim to fame in that space?
So I went from 10 years in journalism to then 10 years as a marketing director. So my strengths are really the storytelling, grabbing people's attention. You don't have long in journalism. You have a headline in the first paragraph. So grabbing attention and persuading people to think in certain ways and behave in certain ways, which applied then into marketing.
Yeah, you basically describe marketing, it sounds like.
Exactly. But yeah, journalism is a really great proving ground for that. And then I went on to do marketing for several smaller organizations. So I learned to be a scrappy marketer and do a lot with a little.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities in the little space. I know that from experience. I'm being the sole marketer for a $4 million nonprofit, the sole marketer / designer / everything else for a $60 million B2B. So you learn a lot working with a sales team as a solo guy. Did you learn a lot during those experiences?
Oh yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what not to do, which is also really valuable. And that became particularly valuable in the space where I work now, where I'm independent and I work with small marketing teams and small businesses. I know what not to do. I know where they're stretching themselves too thin because I've been there, done that, seen it.
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about today, isn't it? And when you filled out, I have everybody fill out the little form to join the podcast. And that's what today's episode is how to market less and matter more. That's a big claim, how to market less and matter more. When we talk about that, what direction are you thinking when we're talking about that? What comes to mind? What do you want to talk about first?
I think particularly in the space of smaller teams or teams with not a lot of resources, not a lot of budget, the more focused you can be, the better. They spread themselves too thin. I think in some ways, like the AI boom has made it more difficult for small teams because when you can do so much, you don't know where to focus and what not to do. So you can end up burning out your energy and those limited resources in places that are not moving the needle. So it's not so much about less marketing, I guess, per se. Like if you're a marketer, you're still going to fill out your week marketing, but fewer channels, smaller audiences, fewer messages, really drilling down on what matters. And that's more effective than diluting yourself across the entire internet.
Well, there's a couple follow-ups to that. One is like, well, when everything feels like low-hanging fruit, how do you just stay around the same tree, right? It's like, what about this other tree? After a while, it's like, why would I stay with one tree if the low-hanging fruit to become low-hanging anymore? And you got to start getting ladder and you got to go up farther into the tree. But the other tree looks like it has low-hanging fruit. Kind of makes sense. We want to jump around. Can you think of a story in your career as that marketing person or helping these entrepreneurs where you decided to stay the track, and why did you decide that? That illustrates why it's worth getting good at picking from one tree versus trying every tree with low-hanging fruit.
Just in the last week, I've been talking with people, and it's interesting because they know what they need to let go of, and like they needed permission to do it. I told someone that, you've been doing these LinkedIn Lives for a year and they haven't gained any traction. They're costing you money for the platform and all the things you're doing to promote them. Hardly anybody's showing up. The people who are showing up aren't converting. You don't have to keep doing that. You can let it go. You can still use LinkedIn and not do lives. And was it worth an experiment? Sure. It was worth doing, and it's not getting traction. So it's okay to stop. I told another person, we were talking about her newsletter. And she's a moderately successful newsletter, and she hates it. Like she hates writing it. And it takes her so long. She's like, I'm spending like 10 hours writing this newsletter. I just hate doing it. I'm like, okay, I get it. Well, what do you like to do? She's like, well, I wish I could just like talk to people. I'm like, well, so how about instead of spending 10 hours writing a newsletter, you send out a 5-minute video every week? Like you're working so hard at this thing, and there are alternative ways to get the result that you're looking for, let's experiment. Let's try that. I guess the back to your original point, you can pick all the fruit off a tree, right? A channel can kind of wear out for you. That's possible. It's something to keep track of. But don't just hop around to like every possible potential tactic. Yeah, there's a million things you could do. Should you do all of them? No. You need to figure out what you want to do. Don't do things you hate. Figure out what you want to do, who you want to be, and where your audience is. If your audience isn't coming to your LinkedIn Lives, then stop doing them.
Is there an illustration from your own life where you maybe found yourself spreading out too much in areas you didn't actually want to be and you pulled it back?
Yeah, one of my earlier in-house marketing director positions, when I stepped into it, my predecessor had been very bullish on social media, which is great. We were marketing to college student demographic. It seemed to make sense. But I mean, we had accounts on literally every social media channel. I was a one-person marketing team. Like there's just no way. There's no way we can do this and do all the other things that we need to do. So, it pretty immediately began whittling that down. I figured, okay, where are the specific college students we want to talk to? Where are they looking for information like this? Looking for somebody like us? Because yes, if you're just going to go by age, sure, they're everywhere. But there are specific people within that age group that we're looking for. And there are specific places where they are looking for us. It bothers me sometimes if I'm scrolling like Instagram and then it feels like there's a very random post from like an industrial company and it just doesn't feel like Instagram. They're like, yeah, your audience is here, but they're not thinking about work right now. That's not where they're looking. So it's kind of finding that sweet spot of not just getting your right audience, but getting them when they're in the right frame of mind. And that might be the channel or it might be your post. Maybe Instagram's a fine place to be, but you need to be a lot lighter. You need to engage them where their brain is at that time.
Yeah, it's really about conserving resources and putting it where it matters most, right? The content marketing game of using your strengths as leverage reminds me a lot of the game of, I don't do judo. I had a friend in middle school who was like a judo pro, but judo is all about like using your opponent's weight, and against them and getting leverage. And
that's exactly what we mean by market less, matter more, right? Like put your energy and your resources into the places where it moves the needle, where it matters.
Do you think we just kind of get into this mode where we believe, one channel or one type of medium has to be it? What have you seen with folks?
I think that there are some folks that suffer from the shiny object syndrome, particularly if they're not satisfied with the kind of results they've been getting, which may or may not be a channel issue, right? It might be the content that you're putting out. It might be a message mismatch. So there's all kinds of reasons you might not be getting the results you were looking for. And they're the ones who will be like, ooh, well, people are getting really successful on TikTok. We should do a TikTok. It almost feels like grasping at straws. Like one of these has got to be the thing. Let's just keep spinning until we get to the one that's got to be the thing. And we know, though we don't always act like it, the content is a longer game. You need to give something time to get traction, and we don't always do that.
Well, it's almost like we're talking about two different things when you think about it, because you have the client stories you just shared, which are great. It was like the LinkedIn Lives person. They've done it for a year. That's pretty much picking from the same tree and getting really good at it, you'd think. But then you have other folks, and I know because I was one of them, who kind of think, and I struggle with this with my own business, that SOS, shiny object syndrome of, I just need to add this in. I just need to do this one more thing. Is there a way you kind of know, like, when does it make sense to stop doing the one thing I thought was working or I thought I should do? And where, is there a kind of framework you follow, or is it just, intuition through conversations with clients where you kind of go, based on the data? Tell me about that.
I think for something like social media, my personal feeling is that you should be getting some kind of measurable traction, whether it's engagement or audience growth or conversions, whatever. You should be getting some kind of measurable traction probably after 3 months. Like, give it a good 3 months for people to notice you and give it an honest try. Like, you have to let people know you're there, right? Let the people you know on other channels, other platforms know that you now have a Twitter account or whatever. But after 3 months, if you're showing zip, then it's okay to let that go. Some of the more long form things like a newsletter, you maybe want to give that 6 months to build it up. If it feels good, this is a little bit more of an intuition thing, but I know we're talking to marketers here. If the response you're getting is good and it feels like a good spot for you, go ahead and give it a little more time. Maybe play with your messaging, maybe play with your where you're pulling the audience from. But if something is a time suck, if it's sucking up your resources and not giving you any return on investment after 1 or 2 quarters, it's probably time to let it go.
We're really talking about human brain capacity, strengths as a human, that kind of stuff, more than anything specifically about, results, which are still important. But I've thought about this a long time, and I've never really productized it or created a system around it. It sounds like you do. This is like what you do a lot more of than, but it's this idea of find out what you're good at, find out what you enjoy, and just stay in your lane with that, regardless of what you think is the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, I've got a buddy who's a coach, and he's an incredible storyteller. He's going to write a book. Like, he's written thousands of blog posts. He's not a writer, but I guess you could call him a writer because he's written thousands of blog posts, but he doesn't call himself a writer. He calls himself an executive coach. He works with CEOs. And the guy is fantastic in one-on-one conversations. And he's fantastic at telling stories and writing. And this last week, I saw one of his posts that he's got someone helping him with. I'm like, his name's Brent. I was like, hey, Brent, I took a screenshot. I was like, if you just tell a story here instead of having this little quote on as a little graphic of a quote and a bunch of hashtags, just tell stories. Like, you're so good at it. Do that instead. Just text. Don't even worry about the graphic. You're going to get so much more traction from your audience than that. But it's interesting how we see, and I think what happens is he has a marketing person on his team who thinks we should do it this way. And he sees other people's stuff and we should do it that way. And it's crazy how often we think we should do it someone else's way, when often what we need is right under our nose. And we just need to do more of that. It took me a while to figure that out. And there's a whole story there, but
yeah, it really is. You're right. It's weird how often we feel like, oh, we should do it the way everybody else is doing it. And at the same time, we don't want to blend in with everybody else. Right. And I mean, what I tell people all the time, because a lot of the people that I work with are either solopreneurs or small business owners, or one person marketing teams. And a lot of it is, like I said, giving them permission to let go of things that aren't giving a return on investment. And we're kind of programmed to think of return on investment just in financial terms. But you're investing time, you're investing energy, you're investing capacity. Those are also limited resources that once it's spent, it's spent. If I spend my time and energy on this, I don't have it available to spend on that. So return on investment, there's multiple facets to look at there. And my biggest thing, especially with solopreneurs and with the small business owners who are trying to wear all the hats and do everything themselves, is like, don't do things that you hate. If it makes you miserable and it's a grind, if you do it anyway, it's going to show. It's not going to be good. And B, you're going to start coming up with excuses to not do it. And that's when you end up with things of, oh, I have an email list, but I haven't sent them an email in like 3 months because I don't know what to say. Or, oh yeah, we have an account on that social media channel. I don't know, we were going to post 3 times a week, and then it was once a week, and now it's maybe a couple times a month, because you hate doing it. So you're going to find reasons to push it off to the back burner, and nothing is going to be effective if you're just sporadically throwing things at it.
I love that. Return, maybe we need to talk about more than just ROI. I think ROI is too limiting of a factor when it comes to content marketing. Sounds like we need to include a new term in there, like ROE, our return on energy, or the other ROI, return on interest, right? If you're interested in this, you're going to get a return. Your passion's going to show up and you'll make a way. I mean, that's what I found in my business. There's things I do that I know I'm not interested in, that I have help to help me do those things. But what I'm more interested in is like these kinds of conversations. These are energizing for me. And they also happen to help me in more way than one. It's not just creating content, it's building connections with people like you, Dana, and others in my network, and staying top of mind. And it's a 2-for-1. It's return on energy and long-term return on income.
Like, I once made it's essentially a 4-part Venn diagram, 4 interlocking circles. And it's like the first overlap is things that you like to do, but your audience doesn't care about. Okay, well, that's a hobby. Don't like you go ahead and do it, but do it for you. Things that you like to do and your audience does care about, that's where the magic is. And things that your audience cares about but you don't like to do, delegate it or outsource it. But don't spend 15 hours a week slaving over a newsletter that people are going to read in 3 minutes and maybe or maybe not respond to.
I love this conversation because this is something I think about a lot. And I really like your main point, which is maybe you just need to give yourself permission to drop everything or not drop everything, but drop the thing. We're like sacrificing ourselves on the altar of I should do this, but it's not helping us at all.
I hate when I'm meeting with somebody like, oh, we should do this and we should do that. Like, there are enough things in life to feel guilty about. Like, your marketing plan shouldn't make you feel guilt. That's ridiculous. Go ahead and be creative. You're a video guy, right? So like I said, like my friend I was talking with that hates writing her newsletter. Okay, so shoot a quick video and send it. You can still email it out. You're still nurturing your same audience through the same channel, but doing it in a way that feels good to you. And bonus, now it stands out in their inbox because nobody else is sending them a video.
Fun fact, an incredibly good click-through rate in the email inbox. You can't put the whole video in there, but you put the video preview, like a GIF or a preview of what the thumbnail is. A lot of people don't realize videos have a fantastic click-through rate compared to anything else in the email inbox. Anything else you want to leave us with before we end here?
I just want to reinforce that idea that when you are evaluating channels, whether it's ones you're currently using or ones that you're considering using, factor in your audience preferences, the marketing metrics, but also your own time and energy and creative resources that are going into it. Don't neglect that because it matters. The more energized you are, the better your content is going to be, the more it's going to stand out, and the more effective it's going to end up being for the people who matter.
I love that. Well, Dana, where can we learn more about you?
So you can find me at my website, which is danaherra.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/Dana Herra.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.